Hey guys, my name is Hiei. I'm a Terran player for O Gaming, and I wanted to do another kind of how-to slash help me video. The Bronze to Master series is getting a lot of good feedback, and so I definitely want to keep doing that. But I played this game last night versus a Terran player or a Protoss player, excuse me, at our team practice, and a lot of Terrans have been asking me to kind of talk a little bit more in depth about how we take fights against Protoss and how we win fights against Protoss, particularly towards the end of the game. And I feel like this game really kind of showcases a lot of the ways that we can deal with Protoss. So we'll go ahead and hop into this game. This is versus good old Ranchinator, one of our newer guys. He's a decent little Protoss player. Standard game. The weirdest thing about the openings is that he opens up Nexus first, and on a map like this, we can't really do a whole lot about that. And it was a little bit of a coin flip because this is Whirlwind, so most Terran players open up CC first on this map. So we'll actually go up to ×8 here, just so that we can get to our first point. Just doing our standard stuff, getting our third racks, getting our gas, starting stim. Nothing weird, nothing irregular of this game. So we do this little move out, and we do this just to kind of see what he's doing. We check his third base, kind of get a look at his army. We should be scanning him here in a second. Oh, we wait for stim. Oh, actually, we don't wait for stim, but we just try and. We're just trying to establish ourselves out on the map and just kind of say, hey, we're out on the map, so be kind of afraid. He does take a relatively brave third. I had been kind of poking around this area, and you'll see me poke around this area or this third base a couple more times, and then I don't end up seeing it, so I just assume that he didn't take a third. So at this point, what we're doing, a lot of Terran players say, like a lot of high-level people say, when it comes to this, oh, how do I beat Protoss, once they get up to 3 base, and then, Terran players will just say, oh, well, you have to be aggressive on multiple fronts. But how do we do that? So we scan him, and we know that he's in this general area, and as we're sending our drop to the back of his base, we don't want to fight this army with this chunk of army, because, you can see he's got a bunch of stuff compared to not a lot of our stuff. And so we know that if his army is here, this is going to do a lot of damage, and it does. It kills. He had a Templar Archive building. We killed his Nexus and like 11 probes. Yeah, we killed a lot of workers too. So we kind of just abused his the fact that he was out on the map. I actually thought he was Colossus all-inning me, because I saw a pylon here, and there's actually another one in our third. Then we finally end up finding his third. So at this point, we're again just kind of doing the same thing. When he knows that we're here, so he has to be extremely careful about how he defends this army while trying to kill this drop. There's typically 4 ways that a Protoss player will try and, as you're dropping in the back of his base and being aggressive, there's 4 ways that a Protoss player will try and deal with it. The first is that he'll send his whole army on an A move back to this position to kill it, in which case we just move in with this army and just kill this Nexus. If we had been sitting back with this army, kind of, just rallying right here, just kind of playing passively, and not really forcing our presence out on the map, he could just 1A back here and clean it up. But with this army pressuring here, he can't do that. He has to actually kind of use both halves of his brain. And so doing this kind of stuff while we're doing this kind of stuff is extremely important. Again, we don't want to fight this army heads up with this army. This army is not particularly scary compared to 3 Colossus with Zealots almost with charge and a bunch of force fields. So the second thing that he could do is he can try and clean it up with warpins, which he does here for a second. We'll actually close it. We have really good position on these Marines with medevacs, and so trying to clean this up with just Zealots really doesn't go well. We'll actually kind of back up here because I want to see exactly how many warpins he loses. So he's got 3 zealots and 3 stalkers here already. Okay. So we drop in this little position. He loses a stalker, 1 zealot, 2 zealots, 3 zealots, 4 zealots, 5 zealots, 6 zealots, 7 zealots, 8 zealots, and he still hasn't cleaned it up. So he lost, like, a lot of resources, a lot of minerals, just to try and clean this up, and it didn't even work. And he's still losing stuff. We kill both of his forges. He does get that upgrade done, though. And then he has to come back with his reinforcements anyways. So the best way for Protoss to clean this up is not with, you know, small warp-ins. You actually have to warp in a lot of stuff or bring stuff back. So trying to clean it up with warp-in is not optimal. So if he does try and clean it up with warp-in, we can just hang out with this army. I'll actually go back to where we were. A little bit further. Okay. So, we do our drop, and we see, with this drop, that he's trying to clean it up with warp-ins. And trying to clean it up with warp-ins, as I just said, isn't good. And meanwhile, we're still seeing, you know, we're still scanning, seeing if he is sending back stuff, and we know he's not, and we still don't want to take an unfavorable fight here, whereas we're taking a favorable trade here. So it's all about making favorable trades. So we're still just kind of hanging out and waiting for him to go back. The third way that he can kind of do it, the third thing that he can do, which is doesn't really happen a lot, he can warp in a bunch of stuff back here and then attack us at this front, you know, down this ramp and into this army. In which case, we want to run away with this army because we know that we're still going to take favorable trades here. And the last thing that he can do, which is the best but the hardest to do, is send back a chunk of his army and defend with the rest of his army at the front. He finally does decide to do that, and I think we could have forced a fight against this army, but considering the fact that we killed both of his forges, we killed a bunch of gateway units, we denied a Templar archive, we killed some probes, and we killed his nexus, at this point I didn't feel like we needed to take a fight, so we can actually just back up here. And we are actually 25 supply ahead at this point. So that's how we kind of be aggressive on multiple fronts. We don't want to just, alright, I'm gonna drop here, and then I'm gonna run over here, because then we're just gonna get chewed up by his colossus that are over here with his force fields. It's, I'm gonna drop over here and then see if I can run in over here. If I can't run in over here, then I'll just keep my drop going until, you know, eventually stops my drop. So this game kind of slows down a little bit. He has a lot of colossus, and our Vikings are surprisingly late this game, but we just kind of spread out, try and take a favorable engagement. I even actually tried to force a fight right now. You know, I set up kind of a flank over here, and the rest of my army is kind of over here. I scanned one last time right before I decided to go. He's got 3 Colossus, you know, his upgrades are equal with us. And I see him warp in his Templar, and I wasn't sure how close his Storm was, so I just decided to back up. Because I didn't want to take an unfavorable engagement. So we just go home, get our Ghost Academy, get our, you know, all of our good stuff, throw down a couple more CCs. And so now we're in the late game. You know, we've done all the pressure that we can. Now it's going to be it's getting to that big Terran army versus big Protoss army kind of fight. So we'll see how that goes. Looking around for pylons. We start trading SCVs here relatively early. You know, we're maxed out, and we're maxed, and we don't have any ghosts, and we have to have ghosts to fight this. Templar are just too good. Our 3/3 is considerably ahead of his. His 3 armor just started. His +3 attack is coming though. So we're just mixing in ghosts. Building missile turrets and sensor towers is really good, because if he did decide to try and come fight us right now, which he definitely could because he's maxed, these turrets are very good for like if you don't have scans to kill his observers, they're very good for picking them off randomly, and they help a little bit against Colossus. We could have been a little bit more drop conscious though, you know, having a sensor tower here and here. But take a sip of my water. Okay. So we finally start to move out. When there's something that I like to call being at arm's reach of our opponent. When you're at arm's reach, the distance that is one screen length. So from the majority of his army. So you can see we are one screen height away from our opponent. So he has to move a certain amount of distance to get to us. And when we get from this, you know, kind of arm's length, this screen length, we this is when we start to spread out and kind of fan ourselves out. I'll actually back up here for just a second so we can get the tail end of that, or what was just happening. So we get our arm's distance out from him, and we spread out. We don't want to attack into this army just clumped up all willy-nilly, because he's got 8 High Templar, 4 Colossus, and a considerable number of force fields with, you know, with good even upgrades with us. So we don't just want to go barreling into him. We want to eliminate as much of this splash as we can. So we kind of, you know, we scan, we see where his High Templar are, and see if there are any worth picking off. And we actually do get a couple. So now we've started to eliminate some of them. So he's got only 3/4 of the number of Storm that he had before, which is a considerable amount. We also are constantly scanning him. At this point, you know, we've got a big enough bank that minerals aren't really our biggest concern, but winning this fight is much more important. The best thing that we can kill while we're kind of poking around is obviously his High Templars, but also his observers. If we really want to get rid of these observers so that our cloaked ghosts can just cloak and not have to worry about being killed by the zealots or the stalkers or the colossus. So we see one of his observers, and we just keep scanning, keep trying to pick off his observers where we can. And then at this point, I feel confident in moving forward against him. His high temp, all of his spellcasters are clumped up. One thing that we made kind of a mistake with our ghosts was you want to have 2 or 3 ghosts kind of leading the charge, and the rest kind of further back. Because if he did have like a cannon back here, or an observer kind of chilling out back here, all these ghosts could have died. Whereas if we only had 2 or 3 ghosts in front, you know, we would only lose 2 or 3 ghosts and then say, oh, he has detection, I need to back up. And, you know, we minimize our losses. So, we killed all of his detection, and we get absolutely monster EMPs. And then we're kind of free to just kind of waltz in here. You know, we just kind of pick... We, just make sure that we're target firing with our Colossus. His Zealots get really... His Zealots get stuck behind his Stalkers in a really bad way. And he's got 10 million gateways right now. We keep scanning just to make sure that like there's no DTs hanging out. A warp in of like 10 DTs right now could very easily kill this if you know, we weren't careful. So we just kill off all the tech that we can. Kill his forges. Kill his gateways. Meanwhile, we're still macroing back at home, building almost nothing but Ghost Marine. A lot of Terran players like to get Marauders in this mix. All these Marauders, once I can get, and I think I've said this before, once I can make Ghosts, I only make Ghosts. I don't make any more Marauders. The endgame units that Protoss wants to have is his Zealots, his Colossus, which we get Vikings to deal with, High Templar, and Archon. And Marauders aren't really good against any of those. Vikings do well enough against Colossus that we don't really have to worry about it. Plus, Ghosts are really tanky. Almost as tanky as Marauders. So, you know, the tanking job that the Marauders would do, the Ghosts accomplish that as well. We send out 4 Ghosts because we have 5 nukes, and just nuke one of his bases. And because we're over here, he can't really address this. We kill just everything that's over here. And meanwhile, we're just building 5 bazillion Ghosts over here. you know, try and get away with as much of this army as we can. We actually lose 3 of these medevacs pretty badly. And then he's kind of screwed. He's left at 1 Nexus. He tries to counterattack, and it actually almost works. But the power of ghosts. He hits some pretty massive storms. Kills almost everything. But we win. So that's pretty much it. The biggest thing is trying to figure out where we can take favorable engagements. I'll go back to that one point. Where is it? I think it's around the 12-minute mark when we're poking around his third. Yeah. Okay. Come on. There we go. Okay. So at this point, let's say we drop... Whoops. Why are we not playing? There we go. So we drop these units here. We scan his army and decide not to go in. If we had decided to go in, this army would have gotten crushed by all these Colossus and Zealots, assuming that his force fields were exceptional. This army would have gotten crushed, and then he could have just counterattacked us, and probably would have won the game. So we really want to make ourselves as you know, only fight where we know that we'll win. And so that's definitely the biggest part of playing TvP. So I believe that's all I have to say about the matter. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments, either here on the YouTube video or in the Reddit thread or the Team Liquid thread. I do read I read just about as many of those as I can find. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at HeASE2. You can follow my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/HeASE2. And you can subscribe to my channel here. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys found it useful, and I'll see you guys next time.